Here we are. It's about 10:45. Cache Lake looks a hell of a lot different than it did last year. Got a good a southeasterly breeze, which is weird. It's like minus 12 or 13, and it's a southeasterly wind blowing up Arctic air from down south where it's been for the past week. Anyway, big win here out on the lake. It's always a mystery until you get here. How much snow is on the ice? Check this out. Just a few centimeters. Just going to be some easy walking. And yeah, there is a bit of a wind chill here without breeze blowing in. So it'll be pretty good walking, and then once I'm in the woods, no big deal. So turns out there's actually some slush out here. What I thought was just a few centimeters of snow on the ice was in fact a few centimeters of snow on the frozen surface of a layer of slush. And in other parts of the lake, I'm just barely breaking through that frozen surface, but not enough to go through. This is a big win. You know, it's been seasonal winter temperatures, you know, right through all of January, which hasn't been the case in Algonquin in, you know, years. But as a result of that, the slush is manageable. And in other parts of the lake here, you know, the snow is like 6 or 8 inches deep where there is no slush. So the going is mixed, but the main thing is just not to, oh yeah, there you can see just standing there, I slowly sunk into it. So yeah, just got to keep going here, making slow but steady progress. Okay, just hit a bad patch of slush. It's a mess. Hopefully there won't be too much of this, because I was doing really well up to this point in time. Yeah. Well, after that one patch, the slush hasn't been a problem, even though the snow here on this part of the lake is actually deeper. I mean, that float is almost 4 or 5 inches deep now, and we're looking at 12 inches down to the ice. Just kind of in behind this little island here. On the prevailing winds from the northwest, the snow would dump more heavily in behind this island, so the going is almost as slow as the slush. It's more fun though. This was the last part of the lake here. And it was all good going. I could feel the slush was down there, but I never busted through like at that first spot. And then the last bit here, again, it's like a 5-inch deep float, just deep snow, really slow going. And now you can see the amount of snow we've got here. I mean, I was following the website, which gives the snow depth. It was like 25 centimeters. I'm probably going to have to break trail to get across this portage. I don't think I can just walk it. 12:30, just under 2 hours to get to the portage. Real slow going. So I'm just moving ahead to break the trail. I think I'm seeing an old ski track here. I thought I'd seen something on the lake just as I got to the portage, heading off into a different part of the lake than I came from. But it wasn't clear. Here, I think I'm seeing it, and somebody skied an interesting loop. Not sure quite where they went, but this skier is a little out of the ordinary run-of-the-mill for exploring Algonquin in the winter. So I walked the portage, just backtracking now. I don't think I'm going to be able to haul this portage today, even with the broken trail. I burned too much energy out in the lake there. So I'm going to just set up camp here somewhere along the portage, and that'll be the base camp for this little trip. So I'm still here at the takeout for the portage. There's a nice little sort of alcove in the woods here. A lot of small coniferous where I can find some good small caliber wood, even some medium-sized pieces in here. Whereas out along the portage, a lot of it's open hardwoods. So although I even thought I could do part of the portage with a half-broken trail, in the event I've decided not to do it at all. The base camp will just be right here. We'll get out for some snowshoeing tomorrow.
Oh, my life I've been in the doghouse. I guess that's just where I belong. That's just the way to drive the road. Hear my doghouse song. It ain't the kind of blues you have for one day. You'll have it your whole life long. You got to be a professional. Sing the doghouse song.
Big score. I got like a 3-inch maple here. And it is rock solid down at the base there. I'm chopping it. No rot in that wood at all. A good piece of maple is by far the best burn you're going to get out here. And it's comparatively rare to find one standing. I didn't really have to go looking for this. It's right beside the trail. And that'll do for more than just tonight. Good chunk of tomorrow night as well. Supplement it with the softwood. But this makes camp real easy when you find one of these. I'd been walking all up and down the portage looking for wood, and then I'm almost done. I came back and I see this piece right here. Nice piece of balsam. So long I had to actually bucket, and the tent is right there. I mean, it's so close, and yet this thing is too big to carry as is. So yeah. Yeah, that's like 4+ inches there at that end, so good splitting. Yeah, look at that. Not a trace of rot. you could send that to a lumber mill. Beauty piece of wood. Okay, so that's the wood pile for tonight. I won't need all of it. And it should last actually for both nights and breakfast, whatever. The stove tent thing here is kind of a prototype. And I don't really have a great arrangement for securing the stove. It doesn't really stick out far enough at an angle enough so you could use a couple of sticks to prop it up. So I'm going to try to rig it up with some rope instead. Attach the copper down here like this, as I usually do. Right there, and then just make a little loop in the copper. So now I've got a bit of support here with the copper and the line here. So it should be better than nothing. But again, it's a prototype design, so obviously there's some details that aren't great. Maybe I'll tighten this up a bit. 445. Most of the stuff is done now that you like to get done in the daylight, especially on the first night setting up. And I've got to start splitting this wood, cutting and splitting. And for the cutting, I'm going to need a little cutting station to make it ergonomically more successful. So the idea here is you just sort of lash a piece of scrap to the tree so it holds the workpiece up off the ground a bit. You don't have to bend over so much. And you can get a foot up on it to steady it and yourself and saw ergonomically with two hands. And you can count the number of YouTubers who are smart about sawing wood on the fingers of one hand. All right, 6 o'clock, and just got the first burn going. Got a little wood here, probably enough for tonight. Oh, now we just got to do a little more setup in the tent here. Lay out the sleeping stuff while the fire's getting started, and put on some soup. So this Kenora soup has been on a few camping trips and never been eaten. It's showing a little wear and tear. Yeah, I think it was on the trip last summer, 175 kilometers. And I never ate it. Well, tonight's the night. I had a bit of a fail on the radio here. There's no reception on the FM. So normally this is my entertainment for these long evenings, just sitting around, not doing much, burning wood, staying warm. And I don't know what's wrong with the FM receiver, nothing's coming through. So I'm like stuck on the AM dial here. AM radio? Like, who listens to AM radio? I guess I do. Finally managed to get out of bed. And at first I thought it was raining out there. Because normally the snow, if it's falling, shouldn't make any noise like that. There's a chance it's some kind of sleet or something. So let's take a look outside. Yeah, just the tiniest dusting of snow, and it's actually snow, but it's, I guess, slightly sleety, enough to make a sound on the tent, but safely snow. Well, that's a relief, because, you know, I'm just not equipped for rain out here. Just before we strike that match, let's get a read on the temperature here. Right now in the tent, -3. So probably about -5 outside. Which means, yeah, that's pretty much got to be snow. Can't be rain. But I didn't know that when I woke up. So, yeah, got the burn going. Stove's a bit wobbly. Might have to fix that. I've got the bacon on the go here, and water. Well, snow melting for coffee. And this dual feature, 2 pots on 1 small stove, is enabled by the design with the stovepipe coming out the back of the stove, which in some respects is not optimal for burning, and it also weights the stove a little awkwardly. There's a lot of weight on the back of the stove, which is also not great. But it's sort of a design compromise. The stove is, the box is 15 inches long. It's smaller than just about any non-folding stove you can find, which is what I was looking for. It weighs 6 or 7 pounds. But I still needed room for 2 pots. So this is the outcome. So here's a bit of bushcraft. I don't do a lot of bushcraft, it's not my thing. But you may have noticed here I was using the yellow birch to start the fire, and in fact it works just as well as the white birch. Although a lot of people might not guess that, because it comes off in these tiny little pieces and it can be a little hard to gather at times, but it does work equally well. But in the event that there's no birch at all, what you can do to get a fire going in the morning is use a bacon wrapper. This cardboard is saturated in bacon fat, and then of course plastic burns like hell. So if you were strapped for, you know, fire starter, you could open the bacon first, right? And then, you know, put the bacon in the pot and then start the fire. And as you can see, my stoke there is a bit lame, so I'm just gonna amp it up a bit if I can. There.
see if that helps. Yeah, so there you go. So that'll give you the same fire starting as any birch bark. So a slight issue here, one of the eggs is frozen. So you can see the this is solid here, the white, and the other egg came out liquid form. So I haven't previously deep fried a frozen egg before. First time for everything. So here you can see a hazard of bacon and eggs. You need heat. You got to really crank up the stove, and that's sitting at my head height. No, it's not up at the top. It's 40 degrees. Yeah, so I'm getting cooked pretty good here. Not as good as those, but still pretty good. And there you have it. Bacon garnished with eggs, all deep fried. So I'm camped right here on the portage from Cache Lake. I mean, I thought I was going to get into Head Lake, but the going was just too slow. After I hit that slush on Cache Lake, my legs were blown out. So anyway, today's just going to be a bit of a hike, and but I am going to try to do what I had originally planned to do, and that is get down into Kenneth Lake here and see how far I can follow this little creek. It's possible that it will be reasonably good going, and if so, I can make it back to the other half of this canoe route loop, which goes up here, and which I had been attempting last spring. If it's possible to get through this area and back onto the canoe route, then it's a shorter loop that's possible out of Cache Lake than the full loop I was trying to do last spring. I'm going to try this catwalk here. I went through the drainage there yesterday and picked up a bunch of ice, which is kind of a pain. It's real tricky staying on top of the catwalk though, because the snow is way over the edge in kind of a cornice on either side. You can't really tell. I mean, right there you can probably see a good... That's a cornice on the left there. So, I mean, it's not like it's a big fall or anything, but I am just 5 minutes into the day. I don't want to wipe out now, maybe on the return trip. So I changed to kind of an angled stride, which is real tricky in 36-inch snowshoes. They don't teach you that at snowshoeing school. You can see back at the beginning there, I was just walking straight, and that's when I went off the edge. But the angled stride, with the cornice so much wider than the actual catwalk, that's the way to go. That's a real good bush technique. Must have been some good pecking in that trunk. But damn, that's a tough way to make a living.
The snow falls and the wind blows, and on the walls where the land froze, there's black spruce and jack pine, hard rock, and it's all mine. And nothing beats a trail to travel farther every day. Right around the red lake and trees and rock that I hide away in a
The green tree broke off here, fell down to the ground, and down at ground level, some animal has been chewing a little bark.
There are fresh tracks in the white snow where they lead to only God knows. There are moose and grouse and porcupine, otter slides and beaver sign, lynx and coyote on the go, rabbits hiding in the snow, and stretching out behind me is a record of my own. I'd rather have wolf and mink and fox and a hideaway in a gyprock box.
So I just went down that way to check out that old campsite. But even as I was there, I was noticing there's a kind of a northwest wind starting to kick up, which is another cold front, which is supposed to come through, according to the forecast, which I checked before I left, tonight and into tomorrow. And yeah, the temperatures are going back down into the mid-teens. Mid-minus teens, according to that now 2-day-old forecast. I was going to hike up to the end of the lake, but I'd already hit slush on Head Lake there, and with that cold front on the way already, I'm thinking I just want to get back and cut some more wood, get the camp ready for tonight. It's going to be a little colder, so I think that's the plan. So you can see that coating of white on the hardwoods. It really was freezing drizzle for an hour or so at least. Didn't last long, of course, and now the cold front is on the way, so it's back to winter. So there's slush under most of this part of the lake, and for the most part I'm floating on top of it. There's one step that busted through, and you know, again I was floating over here, but out there is a 10 by 36 snowshoe, one of the bigger ones you can get. You'll see a lot of YouTubers out there with these really high-tech, you know, 9 by 30s or 9 by 28s, just getting hammered in the slush. Ridiculous stuff. You don't need fancy tech, you need area, and that's what I've got here. So yeah, along with a hot tent goes a cold beer, I guess inspired by some aspect of the Tragically Hip. I didn't cover a whole lot of ground today, 6 kilometers perhaps, but damn, that was slow in that snow. At one point I was stepping in the moose tracks thinking I was saving myself some energy doing it that way. But and then I changed my mind and like, this is wasting energy, so I kind of went off and made my own trail. And then yeah, I hit slush out on Head Lake in a couple of places. Well, that's just a killer. That extra weight on the snowshoe, and you're stopping to knock it off every 10 feet. So it's kind of pathetic how little distance can be covered in the middle of winter. And this winter camping business, you know, if you're going to do any kind of distance or exploration or getting out to see the lay of the land, you know, getting away from the tent at all, you really kind of waiting for the spring conditions when they, you know, the crust is, there's a crust potentially, but also the pack is much firmer. That soup probably will. Yeah. So gotta give that a few minutes. Let that simmer a bit more. Yesterday I was melting snow, but of course the upside of the slush problem is that it's super easy to get lake water. You don't have to chop through the ice. Yeah, not much of a plan tomorrow. I'll probably sleep in, pack up, and head out. You know, it's just I'm a little bit bagged which is kind of embarrassing because really I didn't cover a whole lot of ground. But I certainly didn't do anything close to what I thought I was going to do for this trip.
Well, I got up around 8. It's a bit of a wind blowing. The tent here is not real sheltered. I mean, south wind was blowing pretty hard and predicted for the next day when I started the trip, so it was great for the south wind, but it's back to the northwest now. I guess this is the cold front, so it's kind of exposed here. So major disappointment with the radio here. I've just got nothing. It's like radio silence with the FM band out. There's nothing on shortwave. And on the AM dial, the most reliable reception is Sports Fan 590. I've been listening all night long to this stupid basketball thing, you know, and like, I'm just not that interested in basketball. But a real treat this morning, I believe this is JD Bunkis coming through the static.
I don't know how important that has been to your argument, but it seems pretty important whenever anything has been said, whether it's been critical or even positive. But, well, they're in first place, they're in first place, they're in first place. Well, yeah, you look at their season last year, they're pretty much exactly where they were a year ago.
All right, so just getting packed up here, a bunch of stuff to take care of. One of them is the snowshoes here. One of the problems with the slush is that, you know, this type of buckle can get iced up. And, oh, that one came out. But last night when I was taking them off, I actually had to slip this to get the boot out because that buckle was iced. That's a major shortcoming of this type of snowshoe binding when you're going through slush. A nice feature of the howling north wind is makes it super easy to get the ashes out of the stove without getting them all over yourself. The wind just sort of takes them away. Beautiful. Well, that's the pack up. It's a battle every time. There's just a few too many pieces. I haven't quite figured out which piece should go where exactly. I don't do enough camping to get that optimized. And the biggest worry is, like, there's all this extra space here that wasn't there on the trip in. Like, you think, well, is a piece missing? Where did that space come from? That's a north wind. That's just howling straight down the lake. I gotta punch back into it, possibly 2 hours. If I hit slush, it's gonna be nasty. So I'm not gonna delay. I'm just gonna get the hell out of here. And regarding the slush, I have the shovel out. It'll be a lot easier to scrape the slush off the toboggan if I have that shovel handy. So I rejoined my track right here. I'd lost it out in the middle there. It was all drifted in. But it's much easier going here, as you would expect. Oh, back on my track here again, and I'm into the Narrows. Just at the far end of the Narrows was where I hit that horrible slush. I'm gonna try to stick to the right-hand shore and make a big loop around where that slush puddle was. We're through the Narrows here, and I came up the right-hand shore here, and just over on the other side, right there is the slush puddle. And I just gotta get up and go left around that point there and rejoin my track. Just giving this puddle here some space. Alright, made it. Oh, 1 o'clock, 1:10. I did leave about, shortly after 11. Call it 2 hours. That was a battle. And it wasn't much more than 2 kilometers. It's minus 12. It's systematic air that's been 2 degrees ever since the car was new. Minus 12. Holy Moses. That, with that north wind, that wind chill was well under minus 20. Well under. And it might only have been 2 kilometers, but geez,
That was the hardest single haul that I've pretty much ever had to do at a stretch. Stupid toboggan kept flipping over. I couldn't keep it upright, and I never hit any slush through it all. I mean, imagine if I hit some slush at -12. Well, I guess it was pretty much -12 on the first day as well. So the thing about the slush is you got to get it off before it freezes, and you do have a few minutes. And if you know you're stuck, you can leave the sled sitting in the slush for a few minutes while you decide what to do. But then when you flip it over, you got to get the slush off fast. But I'm super happy that I was able to kind of take a wide circle around that puddle and miss it altogether. In other respects, the slush was down there almost the entire way. You know, the ski poles were constantly going through and hitting it, but the snowshoes and the toboggan were floating. And that's really been my first experience with that. And I have to say, I'm pretty impressed with how that can work. I'm not sure I did it all quite optimally, but I did it good enough, I think. And yeah, in terms of total distance, this is about the wimpiest trip I've ever done. Oh my goodness. Wimp factor 10. But we're out, and the next stop in the direction of Huntsville there, see that sign, will be Hortons. Okay, I'm going to back up and take a bit of a roll at the bank there to get through it. I don't think I want to be driving one-handed filming.